Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. I am in Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful day out, and we have Mr. Amaha Sellassie on. Good morning, Amaha.
Morning.
Where are you now?
I am in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay. Dayton, Ohio. So, won't you tell us a little bit about you? Where did you grow up and go to school?
Sure. Yeah, I was born in Dayton, Ohio, really down the street from where our co-op is, and then went to school, graduated from Centerville High School, and then went on, got a degree at Wright State and my master's at UC. And working on my PhD now.
You got your master's, what's UC? University of...
University of Cincinnati.
University of Cincinnati, okay. I automatically thought of USC when you said UC. Okay, but
Yeah.
different place. And you're working on your doctorate now in what?
Yeah, in sociology. I'm a public sociologist, so basically like how to walk with the community towards whatever the aspirations are of the community. So yeah, I'm an action researcher.
Oh, I didn't know that part about you. Okay, all right. So do you like that kind of work?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love being in the community. I love witnessing a community realize its power. The change its lived environment to be able to shift the patterns in the community. Yeah, it brings me great joy when the lights start to flash. And, we could do that. You don't got to ask permission.
Well, I taught mathematics for a while, then marketing, and for me, the reward was when that light went off when they got the math concept, because it would happen. It wouldn't get it, and then boom. So I could see if you're working for a whole community, and the community got power. They got that they have power.
Yeah.
And then how to use that power.
Right, and that's the crucial piece, right? Because ultimately, you want a community to grow in its hope, and so if power is the ability to change our lived environment, then hope gets released the more we understand our power, so the more powerful we are, the more hopeful we are that we can change the environment, and then we act, and then that action releases the power, and so it's like how to raise more hope, because when we're hopeless, we feel that, I'm in my circumstances and nothing can change, and then I don't act. You know what I mean? So it's like how to get the community to act together to whatever the future is they're trying to create.
Okay, power is the ability to do what?
Power is the ability to transform your lived environment. Like our ability individually and collectively, if it's within your household, your neighborhood, your region, our ability to shape the environment around us. Instead of being shaped, because oftentimes we're the recipients of someone else's imagination, instead of being the protagonists in our own imagination and our own story.
Well, too often you say somebody's imagination, they want to dump sewage and dump waste and take our land. That's
the West Dayton. If you describe the environment that we're in, I'm in West Dayton, which is 98% African American, right? Dayton has one of the largest numbers of segregation in the country. We're ninth in the country or something like that. And everything that society doesn't want gets ended up on the west side. If it's landfills, if it's water treatment plants, And so I call it risk. Like the west side, black folk, we bear the risk and the burden for the rest of the county, because, everybody flushes their toilet, everybody throws away trash, but they imagine that it's okay and acceptable for everything to end up on the west side, you call it a sacrificial zone.
We can dump the trash on the black folk,
Basically.
and they have no power
Basically.
until they meet Amaha and their light turns on and they see that they have power. They have the ability to transform that lived environment.
Yeah. Amen.
Okay.
Yeah. Collectively, right? Yeah, we spark each other.
So you have to then also get into politics?
Actually, well, I mean, like H. Rap Brown, everybody would say everything is political, but I actually do not get into politics, right? Because, like, I don't want to give my power over to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, I used to beg and plead and this, that, and the other, but I don't anymore. I want to build something so compelling, that's so, like, inspiring, that it draws on the deep aspirations that we have as a community, that we suck the life force out of the status quo. You know what I mean? That, like, instead of trying to tear down and rebuild, how we just build a compelling, that, like I think it was Buckmaster Fuller that said, like, build a compelling that makes the old obsolete. You know what I mean? So how do we shift the dominant narrative that it sucks the wind out of the current status quo by showing that something else is possible?
Okay. So you're doing it with economics then, not political.
Yeah, I think partly economics, we're trying to build a solidarity economy, but I think it's more by just showing that, like, that the community has power. Like they say, like, we was just in Minneapolis, right? And it said that sign at the George Floyd Memorial where it said that where there's people, there's power. You know what I mean? And so I think, like, oftentimes we think power resides in, like, formal offices instead of realizing that power is with the people. You know what I mean? And if we build our agenda and the people downtown don't feel that agenda, then we'll have to just put people in office that support the agenda that we're trying to create. So oftentimes communities don't have an agenda. And so then we're still on the wind and imagination of whatever other people outside of our community will say our community needs and wants, instead of knowing that, like, Patricia Hill Collins would say that, like, the people closest to the issue understand the issue the most. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like Fannie Lou Hamer and everybody. Ella Baker. So it's like shifting who are the knowledge creators. You know what I mean? As a way to, like, shift the epicenter of power back into the communities where we can practice our self-determination.
So I just want to go back and pick out something that you said. You said if the community has an agenda and they take that downtown, if the people downtown do not accept that agenda, then you put some people in power. So you will become political. See, I was thinking that from my first question. If the people that's in political power now, you say downtown, they're used to dumping on us. And what's going to change their view, their motive? I think they'll probably have to be changed out. Maybe there could be some people down there, but
yeah. I think it's a mixed bag. You know what I mean? At least in Dayton. But I think the key is, like, the notion of doing for the community versus walking with the community. And oftentimes politicians do things for, instead of walking with, you know what I mean? Now, if they want to walk with, that's great, because we're co-creating this thing together, you know what I mean? But if you're trying to do for the community, then you're not really for the community, you know what I mean? Because you think you know more than the community knows, you know what I mean? And so it's like, then, you got to go, you know what I mean? Well, so yeah. So I guess there is a political component, but I think, like, the epicenter of that political power is the community itself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the people in your neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like at Co-op Dayton, we look for who are the indigenous leaders. You know what I mean? Like those that on their corner. Like when there's an issue, they'll come to them and ask, "Hey, what does this mean?" Or what, you know what I mean? Like, instead of, like, the formal people that have, like, positions and roles. But maybe not a base. So
power, hope, and action. That's what I heard you say.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that, Bob. Because that's it. I've never summarized it like that before. But I'll quote you in the future.
Well, because I have talked a lot on this show about hope. Okay, and it's like people without hope start self-medicating and doing all kinds of things because without the hope, they don't have the dreams, the look forward. So when there's hope, and if you in your sociology can show people they have power and therefore give them hope, that's the battle, man. That's it.
For sure.
It.
Yeah, because once we get outside the box, I think the key is just knowing the power of imagination, and the power of acting. So action research, we would say you have to act to learn and learn to act, and so like knowledge is through action, you know what I mean? Like Bell Hooks would say, know, but verify and praxis, and so it's like hope gives us the courage and ability to act, and then we receive the fruit of it. You know what I mean? So like, what was it, Alice Walker that said like the best way to keep people out of power is for them to believe they don't have power. You know what I mean? And so it's like the more that we can, as a community, realize, man, like we don't have to accept the unacceptable. You know what I mean? That like whatever it is right now is not what it has to be. So like one of the things that we did when we started opening up the grocery store was we shifted the language from food desert to food apartheid, you know what I mean, to go off of what Karen Washington, so as eloquently says, because we wanted to show that, like, this is not natural. This is not happenstance. This was a product of someone's imagination that our community has been so underdeveloped and disinvested, right? And if it was a product of someone's imagination, then we have the power to reimagine it. And that's what brings the hope, which then leads to action, and so it's like how you frame things matters,
So I'm going to go all the way back to your schooling and ask you a question.
Okay.
Did you learn about co-ops in your formal education? You've got an undergrad, you got a high school, undergrad, a master's, and you're working on a doctorate. Did you learn about co-ops in your formal education?
I did not. And what's even more crazy for me is that, like, I study community, and, like, co-ops are a way to build an economy with and for the community, and yet and still never had a class on it. I don't even remember it being like a chapter or like a subject matter, which is crazy to me.
Well, you are normal in our educational system because I have a master's in math, so I don't necessarily expect to get co-ops in mathematics, but I got an MBA. So a master's in business administration, and this whole body of knowledge, cooperative business model, was not discussed. Nowhere.
Wow.
So where did you learn about co-ops?
Yeah, so it was interesting, right? So we had 40,000 residents and no grocery store. Right, and so
in West Dayton, you have 40,000 residents. 98% of them are black, and no grocery store.
No grocery store, and so people had to take like 2 buses to get to a grocery store or go to a corner store to get their food, and so once it was like determined that that we wanted to explore the possibility of opening a grocery store. We were, there's someone named Erica Bruton who got connected to Co-op Sensi, and Co-op Sensi, shared with us, co-op principles and Madrigan, and it just made sense to us that, like, like, we didn't have language for our aspirations, but when we heard about the cooperative principles and the Madrigan principle, it aligned so much with who we were. It was like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. You know what I mean? So then we started learning more about co-ops.
So you already mentioned we were in St. Paul this past week. Yeah, just a week ago.
About a week ago. Yeah.
And it was the Black Co-op agenda, and the brother said in one of the I didn't plan on going as many classes as I did, but you're at a good conference when there's more classes to go to than you can go to. 3 or 4 of them at the same section. But this brother said, we've been doing co-op for 40 years. We just didn't have the language. And I have it. We brought cooperation on them slave ships. We brought it over from West Africa. We've been doing co-op since the beginning of time, since the beginning of humanity.
Yeah, it's the first economy to my knowledge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And especially for Black people, you know what I mean? Because we've had to rely upon each other, you know what I mean? Because, we were isolated and were have continuously been in systems not made for us. You know what I mean? So we've had to learn how to work together. That's why I shout out Dr. Jessica so much, because her book is so profound in shifting the narrative and helping us see a pathway forward. Yes, collective courage. You already know.
So you said Dr. Jessica, but I want to say Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhard
Yes.
wrote a book called Collective Courage, A History of African American Cooperative Economic Thought and Practice. Yeah, this is my co-op Bible.
I was gonna say it's a Bible for cooperative development for sure.
Yeah, and we were fortunate she was in St. Paul with us this past week.
Yes.
Okay, so you went to Co-op Cincinnati, called Co-op Cincy. Somebody told you about that. You went there and got education. They have a farm. They have a bunch of co-ops, but the bigger piece is this education that they do. So you brought that education back home. Now, when did you decide you were going to do a food co-op?
I think we decided first we were going to build a grocery store, and we didn't know what that meant. You know what I mean? We had zero grocery store experience, and then, once we met Co-op Cincy, and it made sense. At that time, Co-op Cincy was working on building a grocery store too. And so they were a little bit further than us, but it was okay. So we're kind of learning together and figuring this out. And so that's when we started deciding that we wanted to build a worker. We're a multi stakeholder. So we're worker owned and community owned grocery store.
Okay. So it's a good place to say there's 4 different types of co-ops or sections. If the co-op is owned and controlled by the employees, it's called a worker co-op. And I have it Amaha that any business could be a worker co-op. I've had some people say it doesn't work as well if it's over 500 employees, but I think it can work I think it could work well with 20,000 employees. Then if it's owned and controlled by the people that uses the products or services, it's called a consumer co-op. Most food co-ops started as consumer co-ops. Credit unions are consumer co-ops. Housing co-ops are consumer co-ops. There's a co-op, a recreational equipment, REI, that is owned by the people that shop there. It's a consumer co-op.
Yeah.
So those are examples of, you can have any business be a worker co-op, and you can have any business be a consumer co-op. I was told, I haven't found this out, but the Green Bay Packers had the fans owning a part of the Packers.
Wow.
Okay.
I never heard that.
Yeah, I've heard it. I haven't confirmed it, because it seemed like to me we could get some NFL teams that be consumer co-ops and worker-owned co-ops.
Wow.
Okay. There's just no limit to it in my mind. And then the other 2 types of co-ops is when a group of people or businesses come together to create a business where they can market their products through that business. And farmers have been using this forever. Land O'Lakes, Ocean Spray, those are examples of Cabot Creamery. The farmers, 600 farmers belong to Cabot Creamery. They bring their milk.
What's his grape juice? I think started as a co-op.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, I know Ocean Spray did. I didn't know Welch.
Yeah. The J.M. Kaplan Foundation. The Kaplan family started a co-op.
So, like Cabot Creamery, 600 farmers, they could not get their milk if they're in Wisconsin, to California or New York, but Cabot Creamery can, and it's called a marketing or producer co-op because they also produce cheese and cottage cheese and a whole bunch of other things, yogurt. So they'll take the milk and produce other kinds of things. More often than not, you may be buying something that is a co-op product, but you don't know it.
I have no clue. Yeah.
And then the other one is a purchasing co-op, and that's when a group of people or businesses come together to buy what they need. Farmers do this also, and they form a business, and they buy what they need to buy. Ace Hardware is a purchasing co-op. Those individual mom and pop stores could not compete against the big box stores. So we formed this co-op, Ace Hardware, and all of these mom and pops buy from Ace, and Ace buys in bigger bulk, so it gives them a better price. Yeah. Plus, Ace then will have people that will research the products, and they can come up with the best products for the best price. So it works. You have employee co-ops, worker co-ops, consumer co-ops, purchasing co-ops, and marketing co-ops. Those are the main four types, and you can do as many of those as you want in Dayton. Okay.
I say.
40,000 people on the west side, 98% African American. So you decided to do a grocery store. You went to Cincinnati to learn how to, and you began to learn how to do it. I asked, when did you decide? But you decided to do a grocery store before you went to Cincy.
Yeah. Because it was out of the need. Because at the time, there's a report that came out in like 2015 that said that we were second in the nation for food insecurity. You know, so it was like, you know, like I think it highlighted the breadth of the food desert, I guess, you know what I mean, of like, you know, how bad food apartheid was. And so like that was when like we had to act, you know what I mean? And I think it's like that was when we realized that like we could not accept the unacceptable anymore. You know what I mean? That like that's just ridiculous, you know? And so and it galvanized the whole community, you know what I mean? Like and interestingly enough, it brought together, so like we have a river that divides east and west, and like, you know, some people won't go east, some people won't go west, and but like it brought people from both sides of the river to work together. So to me, it was like a healing process, because I see co-op or cooperation as a moral force for human development, and I see cooperatives as a way to build a more beloved community. You know what I mean? Where you know, we break down these walls and barriers and learn how to be humans together.
Moral force for human development. I'm going to write a whole bunch of quotes from you, bro. Co-ops is a moral force for human development. And that fits with Dame Pauline Green 6-7 years ago. She was the president of International Cooperative Alliance. She said co-ops help people to come out of poverty with dignity.
I say.
That dignity that you talk about is that power and hope. Power, hope, and action. Know that and that's by, I have it, it's been by giving voice. So what steps did you take once you got the information, the training, which is the fifth principle? So Co-op Cincy is working on the fifth principle of education, training, and information. They're teaching people. Right. They're also working on the sixth principle, cooperation among co-ops. So that in most co-ops, just like in St. Paul, people are giving away information. Okay? In a capitalistic model, that doesn't happen as often. But in the co-op model, it's the rule. You go in, and people will just start. You have a problem. You ask somebody else, "How did you solve this problem?" And people tell you. They share that data, that information. Okay, so you went and got information. So it was 2015. So it was after 2015 that you all knew about the co-op. I'm trying to figure out when you got into action to create Gem City Market.
You know, I think it was 2015. You know, so it's an interesting history that, like, so there was someone in Dayton, well, outside of Dayton, in the suburbs of Dayton, that was killed by the police in 0.2 seconds. His name was John Crawford III. And so we had mobilized and organized the community around it. And that was kind of like what I said before about, like, you know, trying to, like, change systems and this, that, and the other. But I realized that we weren't doing anything in the community itself. Like you need that dance, right? And so when, you know, the news came out about the level of like lack of opportunity on the west side of Dayton, and that we were second in nation for food insecurity, all these things like helped contribute to the community realizing that we wanted to start a co-op. You know what I mean? We want to start a grocery store. And so, you know, we started having more and more meetings, and then, you know, we never stopped. And one of the first things that we did was we did a survey in the community to say that, like, do you want a grocery store? And then when they came back, yes, right? Like then we felt like we had a mandate from the community to like learn how to actually build a grocery store, and and that's how we got deeper into the cooperative and connected with FCI. You know what I mean? FCI did so much.
What's FCI?
Yeah, Food Co-op Initiative. They help like beginning co-ops learn how to build a grocery store. So yeah.
So that's Food Co-op Initiative, and I also met you at the Up and Coming conference.
Yeah.
So that's a conference. Is this September, maybe?
September is the 12th. Yeah, in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break now, Amaha. But for our listeners, I hope you have been as encouraged as I am to get this information for my brother, Sociology. Okay. When we come back, I would like to talk about Gym City, how you got that started, but what other co-ops you all have developed in Dayton. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
News Talk 1450 WOL-AM, where information is power.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oaks, and the program is Everything Co-op, and we have Mr. Amaha Sellassie from the west side of Dayton on with us this morning. And he was talking about opening up a grocery store. I just wanted to see if you know one thing first. I was concerned that you said in 2015 that Dayton, or the west side of Dayton, turned out to be the second in the nation in terms of food apartheid, food insecurity.
For kids. Mm-hmm.
Do you know who number one was?
You know what? That's a great question. I am not sure. Yeah.
I wrote down Alabama, Mississippi, or West Virginia, but which one of those? Because it would also be nice, I think, if we had a list and there's 20 different cities that maybe is taking this idea of Gym City or Detroit People's Food Co-op to those cities to let them know you have power.
I say.
You have power.
Yeah. I think when you look around, like from Charlotte and Raleigh and Baltimore and you know what I mean, like more and more, especially for those that have lived under redlining, you know what I mean, because you're 3 times more likely to be in a food desert and 3 times more likely to also be in a lack of access to fresh fruits and vegetables and no grocery store if you're in a red line area. So it's a common black problem. And the big box stores are not coming in. And so it's like co-opers are being seen as like the way to like meet a need for, the survival and the vibrancy of our community. And that's why I call it the canary in the coal mine, because you can't have food insecurity. Communities are a web of social problems sometimes. And if food insecurity is an issue, there's also all these other issues that are happening because they're all work together. And so it's like food is the easiest way to start having the deeper conversations of like, what is the community that we really want? Like, what is our collective hope? And how do we work together to, make the community that we want to work, live, and play in?
So when you start talking about food as an issue, it's one of the determinants of health.
Yeah.
And I had somebody on from Cleveland, and white people on the outside of men on the suburbs of Cleveland expected to live 10 years more than black men on the inside of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And Brother Anthony Cook at this past conference, he said that there was some huge number in D.C. Oh, he was talking about wealth and income generation, that whites were like 88 times more wealth or more income than blacks in D.C. And I wonder what would be the life expectancy, particularly black men against white men in the suburbs or in and around D.C. And it may be 10 years or more. I don't know.
It probably is. Like in Dayton, we know zip codes determine life expectancy, right?
Yeah.
That's why place matters, and geography matters so much, right? And just crossing the river can add like 10 years to your life in Dayton. You know what I mean? Like East Side has 10 years higher than West Side. But what's interesting about Dayton is that like when you look inside of Dayton, there's a 10 years disparity between East and West. But if you blow it out and look at the county, all of Dayton is considered low opportunity compared to the county, and it's like maybe like a 15 years difference. So it's like Dayton compared to the rest of the county is low, but then when you look micro inside of Dayton, there's still a disparity. So that lets you know that the west side of Dayton that has like the concentrate of black folk, not just for the city, but for the county, is like super low. You know what I mean? And so like that's why we had to act, and we're still acting and learning how to work together.
So it'd be interesting to see what in the west side, what the life expectancy is, and it may be in the 50s, 55, 56, where the whites on the east side may be 77 years. It might be a 20-year spread in life expectancy. When you take all of the determinants of health, which food, housing, huge, but almost stress. You mentioned that somebody got killed. Well, when you go out and you see a policeman and you get all stressed out, that lowers your life expectancy.
Yeah. They call it allostatic load, right? That like our bodies get weathered by the stress, so that like a 40-year-old will have a 50-year-old body because of the accumulated stress and the extra cortisol that's released, you know what I mean, from the constant stress, and trauma, really.
Allostatic?
Yeah, allostatic load. They call it the weathering effect, you know what I mean? And some people call it structural violence, right? Because like these are not individual issues, but they're built inside of the system and structure, especially when you put everybody in one region of town and then disinvest and underdevelop that area. And so like the structure itself creates violence, and so and the stress that comes with that.
Sir, I may have to have you on more often so I can learn.
We learn from each other, Mama. Oh, and by the way, I want to shout out right now you being inducted to the Cooperative Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Like that is just so profound. And we as a cooperative community, thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you, Amaha. I am very excited about it. The committee that put together my application and went to the selection committee and all of that, they kept it from me. So I didn't even know it was going on. and they also tricked me into a Zoom meeting once I was approved. I thought I was going to be in a Zoom meeting talking about funding and finances, and they told me about my future induction. So that induction happens on October the 3rd. This is a fundraiser for Cooperative Development Fund. And Amaha, this is their 50th year of doing this Hall of Fame. So they're celebrating that anniversary. And it's the 80th year of CDF being in existence. So one could individually go and just do a congratulatory friends listing for $100. Could just go in and type it in. And if you're a business and you wanted to do a congratulatory listing, 40-word message and logo, this could be an individual organization. It's $17.50. Individual seats for the dinner is $325, but you can buy a table of 10 for $5,000. So it is a fundraiser. It's exciting, but a lot of the people in the co-op world will be there.
Wow. Get there. I'm doing my best to get there. So yeah, we want to celebrate you. You know what I mean? Because it's important to give people their flowers while they're here. You know what I mean? And you've done so much for us that we got to pay it forward too.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so very much. And I want you there. And Mavery from Charleston, West Virginia, said he's going to try to be there, and so some of the other folks from the National Association of Black Co-ops, NABC.
NABC, yeah.
Okay, so when did Gem City open?
We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary. So I want to say, would that be 2021? Yeah, in this past May, we hit the 3-year mark. And it's been challenges up and down, but we're figuring it out. And I want to shout out Baba Ed Whitfield and Renaissance, because when we talk about that P6 principle and everything, like we learned so much from Renaissance. You know what I mean? That like I always want to shout out the co-ops that paved the way for us. And then we try to pass all of our knowledge down to Detroit. You know what I mean? That they can learn from us, and and we're co-learning together.
So Ed Whitfield has been on this show, and I had him on because Renaissance, I don't know, it took them 8 years. I'm making up a number now, but 8 years to open it, and they closed within 3 years. Okay. Yeah. And matter of fact, I was at Up and Coming conference when they announced it was closed, and the sorrow, the sort of pain on people's faces, including mine, was you're not supposed to. Co-ops are not supposed to fold. In Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhod's book, it says, like, for the capitalistic model, in 10 years, only 10% of those businesses are still in existence. Where in the co-op model, 90% are still in business. So it's because of that training and working together, and how long one starts, before you open it. It took you 6 years. From 2015 to 2021 to open it. And you may have decided not to open it if you're going down that road. It wouldn't have failed, but you just said, no, we're not going to do this business. But Ed Whitfield came on the show and said that management was the number one reason that Renaissance failed. I think they had 5 managers in that 3 years or something. And marketing was the second one, and I think he meant ongoingly promoting the co-op and the sales, like the fresh vegetables and things. There was also this changing people's mindset from going to General Dollar or those things and buying sugar for a pack of sugar cereal for $1 or $2. Right. Or as opposed to coming in and buying fresh collard greens or kale and fresh tomatoes and all of this in preparing a meal. So that change didn't happen fast enough. But ongoingly marketing the, in this case, Gem City Market, getting in more and more owners and members and marketing the business continually, consistently.
Yeah. Those are the keys. You know what I mean? And I think the continuous organizing. You know what I mean? So like we say at the Gem City Market, we're more than a market; it's a movement. You know what I mean? And so like, how do we continuously, engage and evolve? And I think like it's a good way to practice participant democracy.
I couldn't remember the third M, and that's movement. Yeah. I told him a fourth one is margins. You've got to work on those margins to make sure you can keep them up. Okay.
Right. And you know what? That is for the food industry, that is the biggest challenge, right? Because cooperatives, from my limited understanding, I know you know a lot more than me, but for food, the white co-ops started primarily over, wanting organic food and these things. And so they could get products at a higher margin and this, that, and other. But the stores that are opening up in Black and brown communities, we want just the traditional foods. You know what I mean? we want organic stuff too. You know what I mean? But that hybrid model is not as conducive to open because the margins are smaller. You know what I mean? And so it's how do we buy in a big enough bulk that we can get it at a lower price, that we can have prices that are competitive with the rest of the industries.
So it sounds like you need a purchasing co-op too. With all
for real. We're with NCG, which is one, but I think NCG has more that are organic than it's not called traditional. I can't think of the word right now, but I'm gonna say traditional for right now. You know what I mean? Well, we actually were the first co-op in NCG, National Co-op Grocers, that is a hybrid model or more traditional. So we're piloting how to make this happen. And now Detroit is as well.
how you can buy enough volume to get the prices so you can sell it in our neighborhood where people will come in and buy it, and you can have some margin. You don't lose on every sale. Okay.
Exactly.
Lose on every sale, make it up in volume. Okay. That doesn't work.
Right.
So tell me about what's another co-op that you all have created in Dayton?
Sure. So like out of the process of building the Gem City Market, you know what I mean, we had to build Co-op Dayton as like an entity to support and incubate the Gem City Market. And then we started seeing like well, what else could be done, you know? And so we currently have Guided by Mushroom, which is a mushroom co-op that supplies the Gem City Market and also a lot of the local area businesses. You know, they've been very successful. We have New Soul Farm.
Oh, wait. I'm going to go back
Sorry.
to Guided by Mushroom. Guided by Mushroom. So this is a co-op. Is it owned by the employees or the consumer?
Yeah. All of our co-ops are, well, they're either worker-owned or they're worker and community-owned. Yeah, so this is a worker-owned co-op that was really a conversion from a family business into a cooperative. And, yeah, they've been very successful.
So Guided by Mushrooms. So they just grow mushrooms and sell them.
Yeah. They grow mushrooms and sell them, you know what I mean? And they're super popular, you know what I mean? Because, like, what is it? Is it called lamb something and lion's mane, and like they sell the mushrooms themselves. They sell like tinctures and you know, all different forms of mushrooms, you know what I mean? And yeah, they're very, very, very popular, you know what I mean? Like,
It's just a business I would have not have thought of.
Yeah, you know, it's like a niche market, but it's in like actually high demand because it's hard to get like good mushrooms, and like more and more research is coming out on the health benefits of mushrooms. You know what I mean? And so people are you know, learning more and wanting to do it more. And you know, it's interesting that like I'm not familiar with the mycelium network, right? But like, you know, mushrooms are in like this nature in general, like this underground ecosystem of how everything is connected together. And that's kind of what we're trying to build with Co-op Dayton, right? It's like the mycelium network, you know what I mean? To connect movement and people with the economy that we're creating for ourselves and by ourselves, you know? And so after the Guided by Mushrooms, we have New Soul Farm, you know, and we have West Side.
Wait a minute, New Soul Farm.
New Soul Farm, yeah, which we're still developing. So like one of the industries that we want to go deeper into is just like the whole agriculture food sector, and how from farming to finished products and you know, like how can we build this pipeline of different products and services within the agricultural food sector. And then we're also
but this is a urban farm?
Yeah, this is an urban farm. You know, I'm not sure the size. It's like some plot of land that was put together. You know, it might be an acre and a half, maybe.
Okay.
And, you know, it probably a little bit bigger than that. It might be 2 acres. You know, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
And, you know, so doing farming right now and, you know, continuing to develop and work the land.
Have you started the farm? Have you started?
Yeah. It's in operation. I want to say it's like 2, maybe 3 years now.
So is it on the west side?
Yeah. It's literally like I got some trees in front of my house, but those trees were down. I could look at it. It's about like about not even a mile from my house, probably like a half a mile from my house.
And is Guided by Mushrooms, is it in the west side also?
No, Guided by Mushrooms is not in the west side. It's about like 10 minutes away from the west side. Yeah, because we had to find the right building to house it in.
Okay, so do both of them have black employees?
Guided by Mushroom is more white, because the white family that started it and added in. New Soul Farm is probably 95% black. Yeah.
So I visited a farm in Cincinnati, and I visited a farm in Detroit. And in both cases, I wanted to, you know, get out a salad bowl and pick my lunch right there.
Yeah,
it looked really great. So I'd like to visit Gem City and your farm at some point
Oh, we
and
would love to.
guided by Mushroom. So any other co-ops?
Yeah, we got one more called Westside Makerspace, and so we're creating a makerspace like where makers can come and do things, and we want to. But right now, our building is I forget the square footage right now, but we have 3D printers and we have different equipment, but we're looking for a location for like a more permanent space, where we can have, wood making equipment, and, we want to have a place for like, light manufacturing, and because Dayton, interestingly enough, used to be known as a city of innovation. I think there was like, we had the most patents in Dayton than anywhere at the turn of the century, so yeah.
Is this black
catering?
Black people?
Black and white. What I mean? Like the cash register started in Dayton. The electric starter started in Dayton. Like there's so many things that were originating in Dayton. And Dayton is the home of the funk. You know what I mean? We all
okay.
we all got to bring that in.
Okay. Okay. So real quickly here, National Co-op Bank has been our sponsor for 10 and a half years. NCB's mission is to support and be an advocate for America's cooperatives and their members, especially in low-income communities like Dayton, by providing innovative financial and related services. So have you, Amaha, have you all worked with NCB at all to fund any of this? Particularly when you're looking for the buildings, the permanent space for Westside Maker Square, or if you're looking for land, have you looked at NCB at all?
I don't think we have for the land. We've definitely been in dialogue with NCB and learned from NCB. The people that I know at NCB, I absolutely love them, but I don't think we've talked to them about, land acquisition. That might be something to think about, you know what I mean? And we're also a part of the Seed Commons, so our goal is like how to, be a vehicle to fund other co-ops as they're coming up too. You know what I mean? Because we got Co-op U coming up, which is a partnership between Co-op Cincy and Co-op Dayton, and Cleveland owns. So we're building a cooperative ecosystem with training, and then as the co-ops come online, how to fund. So yeah, it would be good to have a dialogue with NCB.
Yep, I have found them to be excellent. Also, everybody that I have met in NCB. Like I said, they've sponsored us. 11 years will be this October.
Ah, that's incredible.
And I was in the National Association of Housing Co-ops before that for probably 15 years. So I've known NCB and the people there for quite some time. And when I was the president, I gave the President Award to 2 of the NCB employees that are just awesome. So yeah, NCB is good, and I think their mission funding, like Seed Commons, Shared Capital, Northeast cooperative funding. So there are places now that are coming up. But like Shared Capital said, at St. Paul, they have more requests than they have money. So there's more growth that more and more people are doing what you are doing in Co-op Dayton, of creating co-ops and need funding. And it's not easy. It's difficult to go to your main banks and so forth to get funding for co-ops.
Yeah, it really is. So I'm thankful for NCB and, Shared Capital and Seed Commons, all these different vehicles to get the startup capital, you know what I mean? Because I think that cooperative advantage is knowing that I might not be able to do all these things by myself, but with my community, you know what I mean, that we can do it together, you know what I mean? Like we opened up the store with about 5,000 members, and so it's knowing that the power of community to come together to co-create our own future. I think the misnomer is we live in a society that thinks that we're individual instead of understanding that we actually are interdependent, and King would call it a single garment of destiny, and so it's how do we co-create our future together? Know we have a shared future, and then okay, how do we want to build this future together? And so, like a Co-op Dayton, we combine movement building with cooperative economic development, because we want to know what is our collective hope? What is the thing that we want to, what is our aspiration? And then how do we build the economic engine to get us there, right? And that was the key takeaway for me from Dr. Jessica's book is that you need community transformation and economic development together, you know what I mean, towards, liberation and freedom.
Liberation and freedom. All right, bro. All right. So what do you have in the pipeline? What co-ops, what businesses?
Yeah, there's a couple incubating. Trying to think. We're looking at possibility of expanding the farm, or maybe just getting another farm and having them all together. I want to say we're looking at a community land trust / some type of housing co-op. You know what I mean? We're still trying to figure out what is the best model, but we're definitely going to start going into housing. How can co-ops meet our basic needs? Yep. And how do we build our own social safety net? You know what I mean? Because ultimately, I think we need an economy that is people-driven, people-centered, local, that can connect to the larger economy. But, how are we building these local businesses? Because ultimately we're trying to build a solidarity economy. So it's how do we combine community transformation and economic development to build, cooperative community developments, that we can move our community together.
Yep, I know what you mean. I know you have the University of Dayton there.
Yeah.
So you could get some co-ops together to help them in their chain, and also hospitals. That's what happened in Cleveland.
Right,
but
right.
I just want you to close out by giving people a 45-second message. What would you like to leave people with?
King talks about chaos or community, and it seems like that is the number one question right now. And a lot of people are choosing community. A lot of people are choosing love as the foundation of building a people-oriented society versus the thing-oriented society. And so now it's those that know that is true, it's how do we take steps into it? It's not enough to disagree. We need to act, kind of what you said about power, hope, and action, you know what I mean? So how do we act to step deeper into the community? How do we harness the assets in our community? And co-ops are a great way of how we bring our gifts and talents together to build the future that we want to build, you know what I mean? And so like Potter Emma in North Carolina, they got multiple co-ops. They got a child care co-op, you know what I mean? How they meet their needs.
We got to go, bro. Thank you.
Sorry.
Everybody out there, we'll see you next Thursday. Please live cooperatively.
The preceding program was paid for by Everything Co-op.